it's Larissa Skippers, and today I'll be talking about integration of technology education with other school subjects. So, to start off, why does technology need to be integrated with the other school subjects? It helps expose students to different forms of technology that are necessary in the real world. So instead of just using it for, in the classroom, students are learning skills to use different forms of technology that are necessary for the real world and that they might use in the workplace or for their careers one day. It promotes creativity. Technology, there's a bunch of creative different aspects to it, and so students can create videos and things that are very memorable, and the more memorable it is, the more they'll remember the skills and what they got from those projects. It enhances learning, tons of new apps out there and online tools to help students with different subjects. Can help students think at a higher level, and technology can help students reach the standards such as the Common Core standards or goals each department has or that each school has. But of course there are problems, and one of the major ones is funding. I think most teachers would agree that using the latest forms of technology in the classroom is a must, and it really does help students learn. But where do we get the money from? Because technology adds up very quickly. Providing training for teachers. Not all teachers are experienced with technology. Even me, I'm a new teacher and I'm pretty good with technology, but there's new forms of technology coming out all the time. So it is hard to stay up to date. So it's important to provide training for teachers, one, how to use the technology themselves, and then two, how to communicate how to use that technology to the student for them to use it. And three, how do you handle technology issues? You have your whole lesson planned around technology for one day, but Wi-Fi is down for the day, so how do you handle that situation? A lot of teachers are hesitant to use technology a lot in the classroom because if you rely on it a lot, there are times when Wi-Fi is down or it's just not working for the day. So some teachers are, scared to depend on technology a lot because if it fails, then their whole lesson is gone for the day. But a step in the right direction for how can it be done, how can we incorporate technology education with other school subjects? One idea is to have each department create technology goals. So just start with a couple for now. For example, science department might use iPads and focus on these skills. English department might focus on using video projects and having students learn these skills with that. Use technology that will enhance what is being taught. So thinking about what lessons are being taught with each subject and which forms of technology would help that subject the most. And to also tie goals to purposeful real-world scenarios. So instead of saying something like, okay kids, you need to use this technology tool to complete your project, add on to that and say, but you'll also use this tool in the real world by this. And so they're making that real-world connection with technology as well. Some things to consider. One, what technological resources do we already have in the classroom? Some teachers are very fortunate and have a lot of things already, such as maybe computers for some students. Some people may have Chrome carts. I know some fellow colleagues of mine have Chrome carts, so every student can walk in the classroom, a Chromebook, and grab a Chromebook and go to their desk. I have an interactive board. I'm very lucky to have that. Document camera. I have a microphone, so I don't have to raise my voice. By the end of the day, when your voice gets tired, I have a microphone so I can talk like this, and there are speakers around the room so students can hear me clearly. So think about what we already have and how can we use that even better to help students. Two, think about what technological resources do we really need to help students. And three, how will the tools we decide to use help students? So thinking about, okay, what's the purpose of, if we get this tool, what is its purpose going to be and how is it going to help students learn? I'm going to show you some evidence that technology works, that it does help education. And it's not just the fact that, oh, it's the latest thing, so let's use it in school. No, there are statistics behind technology in classrooms. And this one is focused primarily, actually only on using iPads in the classroom. So, for example, a research study conducted in Auburn, Maine showed that kindergartner students using iPads scored much higher on literacy tests than students that didn't use the device. University of California Medical School reported iPad-equipped medical students scored 23% higher on national exams than previous unequipped classes. In a study done by Huffington Mifflin Harcourt in California, it showed that students using iPads saw their math test scores increase 20% in 1 year compared to students using traditional textbooks. A study at Oklahoma State University concluded that 75% of students agreed that the iPad enhanced their learning experience. And I think why iPads have been so successful to help students learn and to show these statistics that has helped them on their state testing is because, one, it's interactive. Students are able to move their fingers and move around and see the different things that pop up. So it keeps them engaged and it's fun for them to control it. And they get to learn at their own pace. So instead of a teacher teaching in front of the classroom and going through the motions of whatever is being taught, for that, sometimes that is too slow for some students, and sometimes it's too fast for some students, and sometimes it's just right. But a student having an iPad where they can control one step to the next is really important because they are going at their own pace. It's almost like a student reading their own book. Everybody has their own reading level. Some students are really fast and they can comprehend what's going on. Some students are very slow readers, but they understand what's going on. So it's kind of like that. So that is one form of evidence, and here is another form of evidence. This is learning with technology, and I will warn you, some of the evidence here is done from the late 80s and early 90s and in the 90s, I guess. But even though the data is old, it just shows how important technology was for that time period. And think about now, 20 years later, 30 years later, how many new forms of technology we have. And if the statistics that long ago showed that technology supports education, well, now we have even better technology, so it's even more evidence that technology really does work. So there are different subjects here. I don't have time to go through all of them. But for example, elementary school language arts, children quickly learn to use word processing software. They often do better writing than they do with pencil and paper. For middle school language arts, when word processing use is combined with effective teaching models, students achieve at a higher level than those not using a word processor. Remedial reading students using computer reading games for reinforcement and remediation showed significant gains and improved attitudes toward reading. Students using laptop computers to keep journals, write stories, and complete assignments showed marked improvement in their ability to communicate persuasively, organize ideas logically, and use a broad vocabulary effectively. I'll move down to some other subjects. So elementary science, mathematics. Computers help students of all abilities learn science content while increasing logical thinking and problem solving. Students show greater achievement on standardized tests after using computers for mathematics problem solving. For middle school social studies, students using computers in a history class demonstrated increased motivation and recall and took less time to complete the unit. And I think that's because for me personally, I'm teaching English and social studies, and for social studies we have an online textbook version with an interactive notebook, but we also have the normal textbook. And so students really like the interactive part of going online and just clicking on the buttons and answering things that way. It's just more interactive and more engaging for students. So that right there is some more evidence for that technology really does work to enhance learning. This is an interesting statistic I found, and it's focused on teachers' access to technology. It says most teachers have access to personal computers, but a large majority say they lack the right level of technology in their classrooms. 91% of teachers have access to personal computers or laptops in the classroom, which is great. However, only 22% have access to the right level of technology in the classroom, and that is significantly low, and that definitely needs to be improved. It's important that all schools have the latest forms of technology so students are learning and through the current trends, and we're using all that we possibly can to enhance learning and to make learning fun for our students. And I know, again, it goes back to the problems, one being funding, and I know that is definitely one of the major issues for how to get technology in the classroom. But of course, all schools have their own different needs. For one school, one form of technology might work, and for another school, it might be an epic failure. So I think you really do have to assess what your students already know without technology, and what their backgrounds are like. And because some students may be really good with iPads right away, they don't need lessons. Some students may have never seen an iPad before. And so before you're saying, here's an iPad, go learn something, you need to provide training with what an iPad is and what an app is and break it down step by step. So you do have to think about those things. Moving on, what teachers can do to show support for technology. Attend technology trainings. If your district provides them, go to them. Provide evidence that technology is helping students learn. So having a pre-assessment and a post-assessment with evidence that I used iPads on this, and my students increased by 70% on this topic. Apply for grants. My school has technology grants at the beginning of the year. You apply for it, you get a certain amount of budget, and you can buy whatever form of technology you want. Like my school did, a couple of teachers bought Chromebooks and also iPads. Communicate and demonstrate a love for technology to students. So showing that love, not really complaining about technology a lot. I know it happens, you have to complain about it, but not saying, oh, technology's stupid and I wish I wouldn't have to do this. That's not something you want to say to students. And what administrators can do to show support for technology. Administrators can provide trainings for technology for teachers to get teachers more comfortable to using technology, and the more comfortable they feel, the more confident they feel showing that to students and passing that on. Provide collaboration time between colleagues about technology. The other day I provided a training for this, and I was sharing the tools that I know, and then we started talking about each other's tools that we use in the classroom. It's really cool to hear other forms of tools that everybody uses and what works for them. So just having that time to share, like, what do you use? What do you use for presentations? What do you use for, comics and things like that? So that really helps. Help teachers. If they have questions, help them. Don't get irritated. So you might get frustrated with those who don't know technology too well. And also check in with teachers about the use of technology periodically. Don't make it a hassle, but like, hey, what are you doing this month with technology? How are you going to use that in your classroom? And do you think that really worked, that tool? Would you use it again? Or some problems you've had, what would you do differently? Just having conversations like that, checking in maybe once a month at meetings, and just providing that communication. Not just mention it at the beginning of the year and then never mention it again, because that doesn't show that it's really important. So doing that, I think, is very significant. So hopefully I introduced some evidence for you on the importance of integrating technology education with other school subjects.